So welcome back, my dear student. This is chapter 2 today. We're going to talk about some points about the culture, the identification of the culture. We handled in the last lecture, what do we mean by the diversity? And what do we mean, why is the diversity is very important? What will affect the diversity? We have primary resources or reasons for diversity, and we have secondary reasons. And we said we can change and we can affect the secondary reasons for this diversity. Today we are going to talk about another topic, a new topic about the in the culture itself. We'll move to another point now, and we'll say what is the definition of culture? What is culture defined as? Culture is totally of learned, socially transmitted behavior. Culture is values, norms, and customs. This is part of the cultures. Language and beliefs, materials, objects, ideas found within a society. Culture is a universal aspect. It's not a local aspect. It's everywhere in the world. Everyone knows the meaning of culture. Like so, you can say as examples of the American culture, of your own back home culture. So you can set this an example. If you are from any place in the world, just say what are the parts of my culture. What are the parts of my culture? So culture, including all those values, norms, beliefs, ideas, even the expressions itself. It goes inside the values, inside the culture. Uh, it is based on the traditions, on what you inherit from your ancestors, customs, what ought to do, what not to do, rituals, as example, religious or whatever, or beliefs, any beliefs. What are the typical American traditions? So we are saying here it's yours back. So if, as long as you are from any country, just think about this question and say to yourself, what are the traditions of my back home culture? Okay. In culture, we have material concepts. Material concepts. What are the material concepts of culture? Culture is easily divided into material and non-material concepts. So we can say we have material concepts of culture and non-material concepts for culture. So material culture includes weapons, machines, eating, jewelry, arts, hairstyle, clothing uniform. Materials means it's tangible, which means that you can touch it with your hand. You can hold it with your hand. This is the meaning of it, right? Okay. So these are the tangible parts of the culture, which is you can touch it, you can feel it, you can hold it with your hands. Things that like the dress, like what you're dressing, what you so all this is tangible aspects or material aspects of the culture. The non-material aspects of the culture is including the language. This we cannot hold with our hands, the gestures, the movements, your body language, gestures, how we move, how we act, the eye contact or whatever, values, your beliefs, your rules or your norms, rules of life. What's your rules in this point? What you do, what you like and what you dislike, philosophies, the ideas and the ways of thinking, customs, governments, and institutions. And I will show you that we saw in some videos that the elements of culture may become like seven, some divided into four elements of culture, some divided for five elements of culture, and some divided to seven and eight elements of culture. So that means we have a lot of them. Anything will base and contribute to build the culture will be one of the points, the pillar points, which will, or the basic points, which it depends upon. As example, like you see in the United States and in Canada, we have the Thanksgiving. So there will be a Turkish and people will eat and celebrate and the families all come all together. and they celebrate this event. So it is a tradition, so it's a culture, a type of the culture, part of the Canadian and the US culture. Okay, culture, visual makers. Visual makers, they all tell us what our culture values and what our boundaries are in words, in artifacts, clothing style, anything else. So the small kids, when they wear the uniform of the old or the parents, like exactly the same uniform, this is a message to conduct to them that when they grow in the future, they will keep on this habit and it will become a part of their own culture. It will become a part of their own culture. There are also elements of materials and non-material cultures, those things which we talk about. Yes, that is. How about the values? Values, the thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, item, hold, okay, is held by us and we like it and we approve it. Those are all together, we like it and we approve it. So, what is the inculturation? Inculturation, absorbing by growing up it. So, here we go. Inculturation. Like a small kid, he's absorbing the culture, getting the culture from the old people around him, from his mom, from his dad. He's getting the culture. Inculturation means feeding up the kid with culture, as example, getting aware of the culture. Okay, gives us models to be able to answer questions like, how do we do that? How do we behave in this situation? What are the appropriate interaction rules? How do we make sense of the world around? What is right and what is wrong? And all this also is belong to culture. Culture, like we said before, and like I said back, and I will say here in this lecture, culture is learned. We get it. We know it from others. Uh, Shared. We share it with the other people inside the group. When we said to have a group is to have a culture, and to have a culture is to have a group, to be within a group. So one of the necessities for the culture is to be there must be a group of people all are applying this culture in a specific area or zone. How it is shared, passed down. Yeah, will talk about the theory of diffusion, and we will know that the culture is reproduced, means it's transmitted from one generation to another generation. That's how it works. Examples of symbolic elements of culture, like as example, verbal and non-verbal movements or gestures, the way the people moving the head, as example, moving the head like this in back home in Egypt, as example, means yes. Doing like this with the head means in my back home in Egypt, no. But for India, this means yes, or means clear, or means confirming. People, non-verbal communication differ from a place to a place, and the movements of the hands, the motions of the hands, is different from place to place. You can watch videos on this on the YouTube, and you will see a lot of videos which is telling you about the difference in motions. A lot of things when you come to see is totally different between one country and the other in the aspects of the uh, the non-verbal communication, which is a part of the culture because people from the same culture understand it. It's a code of conduct for them. They understand it all together. Okay. Language is the transporter of the culture. This is very nice sentence. Transporter means it carry the language, carry the culture from a person to another person because it's a symbol of communication, the language. So without language, there won't be a culture transfer. How will the culture transfer if there was no language? It's very logic. Okay. Language and culture cannot be separated. They will never be separated. Both of them. They are very important. They are abundant to each other. They are together. Okay. Where there's one, there is the other. That's right. That's true. Language is the primary way people can communicate, and that's true. And the language, like we said, one of the components we are talking about the culture components. So language is the first of the culture components. It's a system of symbols which allows us to communicate abstract through this culture. So language is universal. Everywhere in the world, they have their own languages. Okay. The second thing in the culture, or the main aspect of it, or the main characteristic, it is integrated. Uh, the traits, the beliefs, the tools, the practices, the patterns, set of interrelated traits, custom, all this, all of them are integrated. They don't go by the opposite way. They do not contradict. They do not conflict. They all go in the same way. Okay, and they are interpreted by the persons who are members in this culture. In a way, it may be similar or different than others in another culture. Okay. Core values. What are the core values? As long as we are talking about the culture, then we have to talk about the core values. Keys or central values to a culture. They are the main points of a culture. The main points of a culture. Okay. What are some of our core values in Canada as example? Let us just think about Canada here and let's see what are the core values here. What are the core values of the Canadian culture which we have? I will let you think about this question and we'll come to it back. Dynamic, non static. Culture is changing. Yes, but it's very slow in change. Is it affected? Yes, it's affected. Is more to be affected in a society like Canada, where the variety of people and diversity from all over the world? Yes, that's true. Adaptive, ever changing and evolving. That's what we say. Culture is always changing, but the change of the culture is not very speed up, is not very speedy. No, it's a slow down because it change within generations. It doesn't like change in between day and night. No, no, it change during the economic situations can affect some points of it, or during to other points things can affect the culture in the long but not the short run. In the long but not the short run. Uh, let's say, do we have differences between the ideal culture and the real culture? If there is an ideal culture and there is a real culture, can we just check out if there is differences between them or no? Let's go for these differences, if any. And I just want to check the internet for this point. The differences between the ideal culture and the real culture. Instrumental, we use instruments of some kinds to evolve and survive. So, is the culture instruments for our survive? Does culture help us to succeed in our life? Does culture help us to grow, to build a good career, to build a good life? What do you think? We use instruments of some kind to evolve and survive. As example, I just want to say what is the meaning of the word instrument? What does the word instrument mean? So wearing coats as example in winter, so we can hunt, okay, or just survive. Use vehicles. This is another instrument. We're using vehicles for getting around, for just going here or there. Okay. using a stove to cook our food, or refrigerator for keeping the things cold. So all those things, all these issues are instruments. While we have instruments, then when we talk about the instruments, then we are talking about uh, the culture, right? We are talking about the culture because culture itself is an instrument for a better way of life. Yes, of course, it will be. Look at this. We have three levels of culture. International culture, which is the culture which is globally accepted everywhere. Um, Honest, an example. To be honest, to be truly guy, to be this, all those are international culture because it's widely accepted. No one in any place in the world will argue or debate that killing person is good or lying is good or stealing person's money is good. So it's a globally accepted norms. National culture that will make a discrimination or make a unique culture for each group of people. As example, within one country now, let's say within one country, so a national culture will make groups or classify stratas people into groups, and each group will have their own specific unique culture. How about the subculture? What do we mean by the subculture? Subculture patterns associated with subgroups in the same country. You will tell me like what? Like the indigenous, as example here. The indigenous, they have their own, the Indians, they have their own culture and they have their own way. How about subcultures? Can you see also subcultures here in Canada? Yes, of course. Every nation, they having their own culture. So uh, those are, if we say the whole Canadian community is a whole. Then inside the whole Canadian community, it's divided into sub communities. Like as example, Indians, Pakistanis, Chinese, Middle Easterns, all those. So we can say those are sub groups, and those subgroups, each of them is having her unique culture. So this is why we're saying we have also subcultures. Within the culture itself, we have subcultures as well. Ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. So what do we mean by ethnocentrism? Refer to the tendency to view one's own culture as the norm. Tendency to assume one's culture is superior to others. I'm asking a question, if this is ugly words, or is it a beautiful word? If that means a good thing or a bad thing. This is the point. A particular culture does not represent universal truth. No. Who said you cannot impose one culture for the whole world? You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Ethnocentrism becomes a problem when we expect others to become like us. It's a matter like now, you cannot expect that the whole people will love the same game. All of us will love the same football, or all of us will wear the same dress. Uh, Everyone will wear the Arab dress. No, everyone will wear the Japanese kimono. No, no, it's not acceptable. It's not. So you cannot say that you can impose one culture on the whole world. It's impossible to do that. It's very impossible to do that. But we say there are some points which are globally accepted. It's a globally accepted, and one of those points which is globally accepted is like the traits which the people used to know, the characteristics, the norms, the values, the positive values for all the mankind. Like as example, to be honest, not to tell lies. All this you can say, yeah, globally accepted. But you can say also this is a global culture. You cannot say the word it's a global culture. You cannot say that. Though there are tendencies to have a global culture in the world and to imagine there is only one world, one place, one culture for all the people, as this will reduce, but it's just a dreaming, as this will reduce the conflict and the wars and the shutdowns and everything in the world, and struggles everywhere and civil wars everywhere. Okay. Ethnocentrism. Example, North America, who think citizens of another country are barbarians because they like to attend bullfights. This is an example. Now we will move into another definition of the culture, which is called cultural relativism. So, what do we mean by the culture relativism? The view that behavior in other countries or other cultures should not be judged or evaluated by the standards of another. Okay, don't take my eyes and look with my eyes. No, everyone is having specific characteristics. Everyone is having his own culture. So don't estimate my culture based on the norms of your culture. Do you think we operate fully under this notion? Why or not? I'm just asking you. I'm just asking you. If you live in the Gulf area, as example, there they have the culture, the conservative culture. So if you live in some places in the world, they prefer men than women. They put the priority, they rank the men number one and women number two. Some places. Some places there is equity in treating men and women all alike. Some places no. You will take this norm, the norm of North America, and apply it in Saudi Arabia's example? No, it won't work. Some say this can be dangerous. Of course, Nazi Germany, Rwanda, all this. Who we who are we to say this was wrong? This would be an altruistic culture relativism example. So, based on your knowledge, don't judge all the people they have to be you. No, this is what we say relativism. So don't judge others based on your own norms. Everyone is having a specific place, a specific area, a free zone of beliefs and values and norms which differ than others. What happens to a universal sense of morality if we say morals are based on culture and we look at culture solely through the lens of cultural relativism? Of course, I'm just asking you this question. What are you expecting? What will happen? Like we say, don't see the others from your own eyes only. Don't think that the others will look with your own eyes. Every culture is having its own specifics. This is the meaning of the word. A cultural item that exists in all cultures, past and present. Those are the universal, the cultural universal. This is another point. This is the cultural universal. Cultural item that exists in all cultures. Things which are common in all the cultures. Items like religion, language, are found in every culture. They are examples of cultures universal. So those are like the religion is a cultural universal, right? The Muslim in Pakistan is like the Muslim in India, is like the Muslim in Egypt, is like the Muslim of Saudi Arabia. The Christian in New York is the same Christian as in Italy. So this is universal culture, universal one. Okay, okay. Let's go to the next point. What do we mean by the cultural diffusions. It differs to the process by which a culture items can spread from a group to another group or society to another society. So this is what we mean by the cultural diffusion. How it will spread from one society to another society. Cultures learn from one another. Yeah, that's true. Culture spread in the long run, we take from the cultures of other countries. There are a lot of examples. As example, people who are working back home, who are working in Saudi Arabia, and go back to my back home, then some words we learn from them. Some things we learn from them. Other people who lived in the urban areas and they go back home to villages, they are more civil or more civilized. They have their own new style or pattern of life. So it differs from a village to a city. Same thing. Culture learn more one another can occur through a variety of means, as example, exploration, military conquest, missionary work, etc. So we can learn about the cultures of the other people. When people are mixed in one place, then they will learn about the cultures of the others. And this is the point which we want to talk about. When groups make contact with one another, they most often exchange non-material culture. And this is another point that we exchange the non-material culture when we work. Like as example in Canada here, diversity of the people and the different kinds of people from different races and different places will generate in the future a new culture. The food of India, like the roti, and the food of the Mexican food and the Caribbean cuisine, all those will be mixed together in the future, and there will be a Canadian culture for food, as example. Not only the pizza and hamburger and this and that. So this also comes to be a part of the culture. So it comes by the mixture, the contact of people all together in one place, especially when there's the diversity. When there's diversity from the people, then it comes like this point. So that's what I want to say, that the diversity is the one who will create the diffusion of the culture from one society to another society. The mixture of the people mixing all the people all together in one place. So this will help in the transfer of the culture from one culture to another. Take a look at Canada's example. That's what I'm telling you. In the future, I'm expecting there will be a new cultures based on this what's happening today. The mix of cultures in this society will might create in the future a new culture which will be specific, a Canadian unique specific culture. Even though there is a Canadian culture now, but I'm saying in the future there will be updating for this Canadian culture. What is the meaning of the acculturation? Okay, exchange of cultures traits elements when two cultures groups remain in close contact. So acculturation, and I'm saying the word again, acculturation will happen when there is exchange of cultures in between two groups of people. They have a close contact. So can you give examples for acculturation from Canada? Can you give examples about the Canadian society if there is acculturation or no? I will let you just think about this and write your answers down, and we will meet the next week. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Bye bye.